Well, welcome everyone. My name is Alana Gensler and I'm so thrilled to be partnering with Julien and Kenzie to create a very relaxing and educational experience. We have registrants from 10 states joining us today, and we're so excited to have you with us. So I just want to post a few housekeeping items. The first thing everyone will want to do is pin Julien and Kenzie's screen so that it remains the central focus. And then if you could remain muted as well, that would be wonderful. I will be monitoring the chat box at all times for any questions you might have. And Julien and Kenzie, I'll turn it over to you two.
Awesome, thanks Alana. So as I said a few times, my name is Kenzie. This is my husband, Julien.
Hi.
And we actually met at Northeastern. God, I don't actually know how long ago.
11 years ago.
A lot of years ago. And we have been together ever since. We got married about a year and a half ago. And last year, just around this time, we published a cookbook called the Newlywed Cookbook, which was inspired by all of the dishes that we really love to make. And the first half of the cookbook, which is where the recipe we're going to be cooking for you today comes from, is a cooking for two recipe. So Julien and I love to cook together in the kitchen. We've been doing it since college, actually, at our off-campus apartments. We started kind of cooking together. I think the first meal we made was chicken broccoli Alfredo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that? That was when my car broke down and Julien had to go take care of that for me because I was a mess. But so this is kind of reminiscent of that a little bit because we're doing like a creamy sun-dried tomato pasta. But anyway, we've been cooking together for a long time, and that was kind of the inspiration for the book. I have a number of cookbooks, and so when I got kind of the book proposal to do this book, it was a natural fit to have Julien to do the book with me. So we're excited to cook with you today using that recipe, and we're going to kind of show you how the recipes throughout that book work, where one of us is going to be the chef. That'll be me today. And Julien is going to be my sous chef. All the recipes in the book are written for two in the first half of the book using two people. Although if you want to make it for one or for four, we're going to tell you how to do that. And the second half of the book is all about entertaining and a ton of menus to kind of help set you up for success. We moved into our first house and started entertaining. And so that's kind of where that inspiration came from. All right, I'll let you.
Yeah, so if you're like us, like we've been experimenting a lot of different recipes at home over the last couple of weeks. But I do feel like we're getting a little bit of like recipe fatigue sometimes. Yeah. Like we'll cook a couple of the same things over and over. But we just want to make sure that we're sharing something that can give you something new to add to your repertoire, or just to try, even if you want to just try it once. And as we kind of go, we'll talk a little bit about, obviously what we're doing if you're cooking along, but also our time at Northeastern and kind of our experience there and since, which has been a long time, which is wild.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I have been watching everybody doing their graduations as it's their last day of school, and mine came up yesterday. So that was, or not yesterday, last week. Yeah. So that's kind of wild.
8 years.
8 years, wow. Long time.
So as we are going along, if you have any questions for us, either about the recipe or about us or Northeastern or anything at all, throw it right into the chat box. And at the end of the session, we're going to kind of go through a little bit of a Q&A with Alana's help.
Yeah.
So ready to get started?
Yeah, to kick this off, so the sous chef in this recipe is going to kick it off by actually boiling the water and making the pasta. So we already started boiling the water. Let's just bring it back up to a boil. And while that's getting done and you're measing or basically just getting all of the ingredients, which we've already gathered, the chef is going to actually start cooking the chicken. So I did a water test before, but yeah, I always recommend when you're cooking to just do like a little drip of water in the pan. You want to make sure the pan is nice and hot before you put your protein in there. So I have this on about a medium low. And then I just seasoned my chicken with some salt and pepper. I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of olive oil to the pan first. You can clear that for me, sir. And then now that our olive oil is in the pan and our chicken is seasoned, we are just going to go ahead and place it right in the pan. And I like to just kind of swirl it and get that olive oil on the chicken. Kind of see, I'm just kind of swirling it, getting the olive oil on the chicken, and that's gonna start to get nice and crisp. This is a pretty simple recipe, so we'll have a lot of time to chat while we're cooking, because this is probably the second longest thing. Boiling the water is the first longest thing, and then you just kind of build the one pan meal, if you will. So where do we want to start in our story?
Well, I have one question that I think I'll answer now, because it's really what we're doing. Adrian wants to know where our pan is from.
Oh yes. Also, feel free to ask whenever. I'll tell that story later. This pan is from Target. It is a very inexpensive nonstick 5-quart saute pan. So the saute pans have the high sides, which are great for building meals. And what Julien pointed out earlier is this one actually comes with a lid and these little spouts, so you can drain it if you're boiling water or something in here, boiling pasta.
I'm boiling water back here, so I'm going to throw the pasta in. This is going to cook. You're going to cook this according to what the bag says. This bag for us 14 minutes.
I realized I got salt and pepper everywhere. So yeah, I guess, do you want to give a little background about what we've been up to since Northeastern? Why don't I start? Okay, because Julien's turned around. So as I was saying before, I actually write cookbooks for a living. I work for a company called Ninja, and we create products, and I am the Director of Culinary Innovation and Marketing, which means I get to test all of the products with an amazing team of chefs. And then I also write all of the cookbooks. I actually started writing cookbooks, I think, 2 years after school.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say 6 years ago. I'm working the other way.
6 years ago, 2 years after school, I went to school for journalism and communications. I started out as a poli-sci major. That wasn't really my thing. So I switched to journalism and communications and thought I wanted to do public relations. Also loved that, but when I started a blog and started cooking, and Julien and I started cooking together, I had this love for food and I wanted to make that my full-time job. So I got my first cookbook deal 2 years after college and wrote my first cookbook. It was called Paleo in 28, for those of you that know about the paleo diet. And since then, I've written 9.5 cookbooks. I'm publishing my 10th cookbook in about 2 months. So really exciting. This is my 6th one, was the one that Julien and I did a year ago. I wrote like 4 cookbooks last year. I don't recommend it, but they were for work, and I had an amazing team of chefs helping me with that. So that was really awesome. You want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I work for
besides co-authoring.
I work for a company called Shark. You may have heard of Shark vacuums or Shark steam mops. Interestingly enough, Shark and Ninja are the same company. So we spent a lot of time together. Kenzie and I met at Northeastern. I was in the business school, so I graduated with a BSBA. I concentrated my time there in marketing. And I started working at Shark Ninja about 7 or 8 months after I graduated. I had gone full time to a company where I co-op during college, and it was amazing to have the opportunity to take that on right out of school. But a couple things kind of happened and things fell into place. And the opportunity at Shark kind of came up, and it's been exciting. I've been there for the past almost 8 years since we graduated.
Crazy.
So it's been exciting. I lead a team that focuses on new product development. So developing new Shark products for the US market, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, a bunch of other places.
Yeah.
Definitely did not go to school thinking I would be making vacuums, but it's a really interesting tech background story that goes into how a vacuum works. And the market landscape is super competitive. So it's definitely fun, fast paced. I love it. And I had been there about 3 years when I heard that the Ninja team was looking for someone that had the kind of skills and vision that Kenzie was thinking about for her job, and it all kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Now we see each other every day, obviously, at work because we're working at home. But in the office, we don't see too much of each other.
No, it's a big office in the fact that there's it's quite expansive, one floor, but quite expansive, and we work on different sides of the business and sides of the office. So we don't see each other unless we've tried each other, I'd say, which we grab coffee or lunch. But yeah, like Julien, I got my first job at Huskies Healthcare, which is a public relations firm, part of Ogilvy, like a subset boutique firm. And I got that job right out of school, also because of co-op. So it was my second co-op, and I stayed on part-time through my senior year, which was amazing. I had a ton of really awesome experience, and then got that job before graduation. We both had signed offers before graduation, which I think is quite amazing. Co-op was I think, a reason you went to Northeastern.
Yeah, it was number one. I mean, I visited campus and I love Boston, and I love like everything that Northeastern has to offer. But the idea of like working as part of my everyday curriculum and graduating with this incredible amount of experience that would be relevant to the real world was very appealing to me personally.
Yeah, I would say it was less appealing. The 5 years were less appealing to me, but I am so thankful that I had co-op and went to Northeastern. I think Julien and I both say that and recommend it to anybody that's interested. We've given a number of unofficial campus tours. But no, that'll be for the chicken. Okay. But yeah, so what was I saying? Co-op. Unofficial tours. But yeah, I think co-op program's amazing. Like I think you might have said this, we're both directors now, and very young directors on our team, I'd say, but I think all of the success I have and everything that set me up for success in my career was Northeastern.
Absolutely.
And the
like
co-op
every it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
The movie, like everything like fell into place. It's beautiful. Like I knew someone that was working at the very first co-op that I got, and he, helped me figure out if that was something that I was really interested in, and I got that co-op, and then I went back to the second co-op there, and then someone I worked with at that co-op had actually gone to work at Shark, which is how I found out about Shark. So like she went to Northeastern. So it's all about connections and networking. It's been really incredible to kind of see the power of Northeastern everywhere.
Yeah, I totally agree, for sure. I think that there's something about that networking. Even now, we've recruited a number of folks to our teams at Sharknado, and you'd be blown away by the number of Northeastern people that we work with every day.
So I have a team of 12, and I have there's at least 4 of them that are from Northeastern.
And then we also still use the co-op program at work. So we both also gotten to use a number of co-ops, which is really fun. So I've been cooking this boneless skinless chicken breast for probably about 5 minutes. I just want to show you, we've got a little bit of browning, which is exactly what we're looking for. It's starting to cook through. I'm just gonna flip it. And again, I just like to get that oil on the chicken. I only use the tablespoon, so I'm not too worried about adding too much oil. And we're gonna cook it for about another 5 minutes. This is a pretty thick chicken breast. The goal is to cook it until it's done, 165, so we'll temp it. It might take a little longer than 10 minutes total, but we shall check it out. That was a big chicken breast.
And my very difficult job is going very well back here.
So Julien's literally boiling the pasta. We chose a penne pasta for this, and that's what's in the recipe. But if you don't have penne at home, you can swap in whatever you have at home. So
anything with ridges pasta.
Yeah, rigatoni would be delicious. Honestly, you could do.
It would be good.
Spaghetti, yeah. We like to give as many suggestions for swapping because we know that it can be, one, difficult to find things right now when you go to the grocery store, but two, you want to be cooking from your pantry and your fridge as much as possible. So we actually pulled out frozen chicken breasts this morning and let them thaw, and that's what we're cooking right out of our freezer. So that's a good recommendation. Yeah, we had everything on hand. So you might not have some of the ingredients on hand, and we'll talk you through how to make some sauce and things like that. What do you want to chat about next on our journey while our chicken cooks?
What is your favorite recipe from the cookbook we read together?
My favorite recipe from the cookbook.
I'm interested to see if it's what I think it is.
I know. Well, So in the back of the book is like the entertaining chapter, and I'll just show you the book really quickly. This is it, the new Newlywed Cookbook. It's got tons and tons of recipes. The front, like I said, is all recipes for two. Let's stay in, which is ironic because we're staying in.
We are staying
And then the second half of the book, I was wondering if I could get it really quick. The second half of the book is all recipes for more easy, practical parties. I love the back chapters. In fact, there's a Thanksgiving chapter, which was inspired by the Friendsgivings that we used to throw in school.
Yeah.
And when we graduated, we would still have all of our friends over. Julien was part of a fraternity and I was part of a sorority. So we still frequently, up until I think last year, still held Friendsgiving. A lot of our friends have since left us and moved. If they're watching,
And this year,
we're upset with
I
you.
think Thanksgiving was so like at a different time this year, so everyone was like, "Oh my god, Thanksgiving. We love to do Thanksgiving."
We love to do Friendsgiving, and most of the recipes in that chapter are specifically from our Friendsgiving that we kind of like iterated over the past 6 years.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite chapter. My favorite recipe is probably the burrata tart, the tomato and burrata
That's not
tart.
where I thought you were going to go, but that's a good one. And if you
know.
if you came a couple minutes late, Kenzie was mentioning at the beginning, we are going to be giving away a couple copies of our cookbook to those of you in attendance. Today.
Oh, man. Tons and tons of really good recipes, doable dinner parties, like we said, as well as, of course, I put all the pages. Oh, there's a nice, everyone was talking about seafood. This is a fish recipe. I was looking for the chart.
This pasta is actually my favorite recipe in the book.
Really?
Yeah, it's just so good and easy.
Oh, there is poached eggs. We lied to you, Alana. There is poached eggs. This is actually a recipe. It's an egg Benedict quarantine, so there are poached eggs on it, which I kind of forgot about. It's inspired by one of the places we went on our honeymoon. Julien and I love to travel. And as Julien said, he was originally an international business major at Northeastern. And I'm gonna say fluent. He's gonna be modest and say he's not fluent, but I've never had him not be able to hold a conversation in Italian, so I'm gonna go with fluent. So we travel to Italy every year. This will be maybe the first year we missed. But so we love it there. We got married in Italy around Lucca area, northern Tuscany. And when we honeymooned, we went to like southern coastal Italy on the Amalfi Coast, specifically Ravello, and there was what was the name of the egg Benedict? Bellman?
Yeah.
Bellman Benedict? Caruso Benedict, something like that. So that recipe was inspired by the breakfast, because Julien loves poached eggs that he would get every morning. So
this was
a good one.
Yeah.
Alana, we'll get you that recipe. I know it doesn't have all the tips and tricks Julien and I were giving you, but that'll be a good place to start. I'm also going to let you guys know that the ninja person in me wants you to know that if you're cooking in a non-stick pan like we are, you shouldn't be using metal utensils because you can scratch it. But I'm professional, so I'm going to do it, and just be very careful. And then also, I think a lot of people stay away from non-stick when they're searing protein because it doesn't always give that like hard crust and sear. But for a recipe like this, it's not a steak. You're not looking for like a really solid browning. You're just looking to cook that chicken through for the pasta, so it's totally fine. I'm using one pan instead of using multiple, and I think that a non-stick for the second step of the recipe, when you're adding the cream and the cheese and all those sticky things, you're going to want to have a non-stick. So that's my little PSA in regard to the cooking technique. And I'm also the most impatient cook. The way to get the best and fastest brown is to just leave it there, and when it starts to release, it'll release as it has that Maillard reaction, and that's when it starts to get brown. However, I'm moving it around because I am not very patient. Yeah, could you grab me the thermometer? We're probably at another 5 minutes.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I know we wrote one cookbook together, but you've obviously written a bunch. What's like the hardest part? As I check out.
Yeah, as you check on the really difficult part. I would say there's two hard parts. So the first, and I'm just gonna get the temperature, guys. I'm gonna go to the thickest part of the chicken, and I'm gonna go in straight through about halfway through. About 30 degrees too cold.
And I'm gonna strain this pasta because it's ready to go.
You're looking for 165 in terms of chicken. You can never do a rare chicken, so it's always 165. It's always cooked through. And what you could do too for this recipe is you could cut the chicken into slices before you cook them. That'll make it go a little faster, but I kind of like to cook the whole chicken, let it rest while we make the pasta sauce. So the hardest part I think about writing a cookbook is one, coming up with the title list. That's kind of the first step for me, is what is this cookbook gonna kind of be? What are the recipes I want to include? And I work with an amazing publisher, and so they are very good at helping to kind of narrow me and say, okay, here's like a setup for the book, this many breakfasts, this many entrees, this many desserts. And then sometimes I go in like a direction where I'm like, all of a sudden I have way too many chicken dishes, and they're like, okay, but like, how about some beef or vegetarian? So they're amazing at that, but I think coming up with all the recipes is maybe the hardest, because you have to like really vary it, and you can't just cook your favorite foods all the time, because then every book would be the same. That's probably the first step being the hardest, and then the second hardest is editing, because you test the recipes, write the recipes, you test the recipes again. Julien taste tests the recipes. He does a great job at that. And then, you kind of written and tested these recipes 3 to 4 times. And you have to go read through every single one again. And I think that process of just going back and forth can get like a little tedious. Yeah. And for those that know me, know that like it's pretty funny that as a cookbook author, I at Northeastern had to go to grammar boot camp because I'm like the worst with grammar and spelling. So it's kind of funny that now I write for a living, but yeah, I hate the editing. I could never be a copy editor. Yeah.
So I drained the pasta, very difficult. It's one thing, this is like such a silly tip. If you have an electric stove and you're draining pasta and you're not going to use it right away, just put it on a different burner, because there's always going to be some residual heat and you don't want it to like stick the pasta to the pan. While Kenzie's finishing up the chicken, I am going to do some slicing. So
you didn't share your TikTok.
Oh yeah, okay. I downloaded TikTok when this whole thing.
I think we all have. I hope.
And
we're not doing any dances. Don't worry. We're just watching.
I feel like this is not a thing that is real. I think the TikTok thing.
Yeah.
Like
I've done that my entire life.
When you use a strainer, I saw on TikTok that you put it into the pan and pour like this. I've never done that in my entire life, and I feel like very left out. I always like pour it into the strainer and then pour it back in.
But like, have you never watched me drain pasta?
I guess not.
Guys, the things you learn something new every day, even if it's through TikTok. I think it's quite entertaining. There's something always new to learn.
So we're going to use these sun-dried tomatoes a little bit later in the recipe. I'm just going to chop them up and make them a little bit smaller, because the ones that we bought or have in the cabinet are pretty big. They're full. So I just want to, don't want like a big piece of sun-dried tomato coming out of,
The goal when you're prepping for any recipe, whether you're chopping an onion, mincing garlic, whatever it may be, is to make the size of everything pretty consistent. So some of these sun-dried tomatoes are really large and some are really tiny. So we want them to be evenly distributed throughout the recipe so that every bite tastes delicious and the same, and you get a little hint in every bite. So that's why we're doing that. You'll also see me mince garlic. The goal again is to get that garlic the same size. And when Julien chops up the chicken, same thing there. I'm gonna give this another temp check. You can see you're getting some nice browning on that chicken. We're getting close. I'm just gonna turn up the temp a little bit. Okay.
I know Kenzie answered the question about the hardest part about writing the cookbook.
You gonna answer?
I am gonna answer it. I grew up in a family of like self-trained chefs, like foodies. My mom was like a restaurant manager for a really long time. My dad loved cooking, and I have a couple of aunts who are chefs in restaurants. But the hardest part for me was like actually figuring out all of the right ways to write the steps to a recipe. Like my whole family are what I would call eyeballers. Like my mom will just like she knows the recipe by heart. Like she'll just make it, and she knows so many of them. And I feel like a lot of times, I guess I would say that I could do the same thing, like not to the same extent that she can, but like figuring out the actual like best ways to write the steps down so that someone at home could do this. Because I know like if I were to ask my mom like, oh, how do you do this? Like she'd send me like, oh, you need like, you know, a little bit of milk, a little bit of salt, and then like you just put it all together and like it's done. That's not, you can't obviously put that in a cookbook because no one's gonna be able to make the recipe. So I think just like figuring out the structure of it all was the hardest part. Even
especially if that's not how you cook, right?
I do love like following the recipe though, but it was kind of just hard to like make it through myself.
Yeah, I think especially if you're not used to cooking by measurement, Julien's whole family cooks by like taste and sight, which is, you know, how you're trained to cook. Taste along the way, season along the way. That's why this recipe actually doesn't have an amount of salt and pepper, because we want you to taste and season as you go. But that's a really hard thing to like, well, how much, you know, salt goes in there? How much, you know, milk goes in there? What we didn't say was that we did salt the pasta water before boiling. And I think that's an important step that a lot of folks forget, to salt that water so that the pasta isn't bland. And my culinary mentor protege, what's the word? Like someone I strive to be. All right, see, clearly my grammar and spelling class teach me all the words. Someone I strive to be like, Simeon Nordstrom. I don't know if any of you guys watch Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's amazing. I highly recommend. But she says, salt your water so that it's as salty as the sea. And like, don't be afraid of using too much salt. Obviously, there are sometimes reasons you don't want to use a lot of salt, but always make sure you're salting your pasta water. Salt your protein before you start cooking it, and add layers of flavor as you go. I just put the lid on the the chicken because I'm trying to trap in some more heat to cook it a little faster. I probably should have pounded this chicken out because it's a big chicken.
We also have some dogs visiting in the kitchen.
Yeah,
so
you want to say hi, Mike?
You see like creatures crawling around there, the dogs.
This is Milo, everyone. We adopted him about 2 months ago. So he just joined our family during this time. And then Charlie's over here, who we adopted 7 years ago. Yeah. He's getting to be an old man. And they're fast friends. They clearly have finished their treats and they're here to hang out. The other thing to be careful of when you're cooking protein on a higher temperature is always make sure that you're using like a splatter shield or standing back. You don't want to send that oil in your face. I think that's probably pretty good. Thank you for getting me the paper towel. I always like to use a paper towel when I take like protein out because that way you don't get any extra. That way you don't get any extra oil throughout your meal. That way it kind of like will start to eat up some of that oil. All right, so now I'm going to turn this up to like a medium temperature. Julien's going to take that chicken and let it sit. If you just want to move it behind you, we're going to start to build the sauce. I feel like this angle makes this kitchen look beautiful and large. It's beautiful. This is like the first photo I saw of the house, and I was like, that's the house for us, but it's actually quite small, so bear with us. Okay, so now that we've taken out the chicken, the heat is on like a medium heat. We are going to go ahead and add some of the ingredients to start building the sauce. So the first ingredient is the second half of the olive oil. This is another tablespoon of olive oil. You could use butter too, or if you had grapeseed oil or avocado oil. I love olive oil when we're cooking Italian food. Yeah, thank you. I'm sure you do. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is add my garlic. Hear that sizzle? Great. And then we're gonna add our sun-dried tomatoes. And this is gonna start to build that flavor. So whenever you're cooking with spices or garlic or onion, you wanna add that first. And that's gonna kind of toast the spices, brown the garlic, sweat the tomato, whatever the ingredient you're doing is, and that's kind of building your base layer of flavor that then is gonna get stocked up in your sauce. You can just pull both of those from.
And Kenzie, how much garlic did you use?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I used 1 clove of minced garlic. So
We just chopped it up all nice beforehand.
just chopped up, and then this was 1/4 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. Packed. You want to pack it, and you want to drain the sun-dried tomatoes first. I usually just use a fork to drain them as I pull them out of the jar, and then measure them that way. And like I said, Julien chopped that up so they were all the same size. Now we've sauteed it for about 30 seconds. You can smell it. It's nice and
so
fragrant.
I wish you could smell through Zoom.
I know, smell-o-vision. How the heck? It's 2020 and we don't have smell-o-vision yet? I'm just saying. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids lied to me because I'm pretty sure there was smell-o-vision in that. Could you, if you could just bring over those ingredients for me. I shall, thank you. I'm gonna just give a little season with some salt. Again, I just like to salt throughout. So now we're gonna go to a medium-high heat. And we're gonna start by adding the heavy whipping cream. This is a 1/2 cup. And this is gonna be just enough to kind of build that creaminess for the sauce. Now we use a heavy whipping cream because it's a bit fuller bodied than like a milk. But if you don't have heavy whipping cream on hand, you could use a whole milk here. Or honestly, what I like to, let me see, you tell this movie. Or coconut cream is another good one.
Yeah, especially if you can't have dairy, pulling like the fat of the coconut milk out. It's good. It's good for this. I'm gonna cut some chicken.
You're gonna cut some chicken. I'm adding my Parmesan cheese, and I'm just stirring it right in. I'm using a wooden spoon, nothing fancy here, and I'm just stirring that right into the milk to kind of reduce. And reduce means that, sorry, I'm turning down the temperature to more of a low here so that it doesn't just completely go away. But reducing it means that you are letting the sauce kind of come together. So I don't know if you can kind of see how it, like, it's no longer liquidy, it's much thicker. I might add just a little bit more heavy cream, babe, because it came together real fast.
You need a hand.
No, I can do that. Here we go. So it's simmering. I'm gonna add just a little bit more milk, and feel free to always play with the recipe because you never know like exactly the temperature of your burner, right? So when we're cooking ours on medium-high, your medium-high might be a little bit higher. So my milk just evaporated really fast.
And Kenzie, how much cheese was that again?
That was a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, grated. Thank you, Alana. So yeah, that was the 1/2 cup of Parmesan. That was a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And I'm just probably gonna add like 2 more tablespoons. That was probably 1, 2. There we go. Now the other thing that I'm going to add that is not in the recipe, but we have veggies that we want to use up, and I love adding spinach to recipes because I find that it just, 1, adds a little bit of veggies, and then 2, it works great with pasta. And this is probably about a cup of packed spinach, but you'll see it dilutes down real quick.
I'm back with the chicken. I cut it. You kind of like cut it. You want to do slices for this recipe, so I kind of like slice it at an angle from like where the tip is, so that way you can get some pieces that are close to the same size. And then this piece of chicken was a little oddly shaped, so I have some smaller slices back here, but I tried to like keep the width of the slices the same. Do you need the knife?
Nope. So feel free if you want to use tongs and just throw that right in here.
Yes.
I'll just show you. So we've got our chicken starting to wilt, our kind of creamy sauce. We're gonna add in the chicken. And you can hear Charlie, he's very excited about this step. He loves chicken and hopes we drop some on the floor. Hey, Charlie, do you want some chicken, babe? Charlie, you want chicken? Come here.
And I'm also going to grab the pasta and drop it right in here as well.
Yep. Now, if you, when you're draining the pasta, you can follow how Julien did that. The other tip I'll give is I always like to keep a little bit of pasta water, which I realized Julien did not do, but that's okay. I always like to keep a little bit of pasta water to the side and add maybe like a tablespoon or two to my dish. It just really helps, again, to bring out the flavor of like the pasta, and it also helps kind of bring together the sauce. It's not a requirement, it's not in the recipe, but it's just kind of something that I like to do when I'm cooking pasta. And if you're making pasta with a jarred sauce, that's a great way to kind of add a depth of flavor to a jarred sauce, is kind of heat the jarred sauce in a saute pan like this, add your pasta, and then add a tablespoon or two of the pasta water, and it just really does make it feel like a bigger depth of flavor and more homemade than a jarred sauce. Nothing wrong with jarred sauce. I use it all the time. We have favorites. But that's just my personal recommendation. So here you can see I'm just kind of stirring it all together. It's nice and creamy from that milk, from the heavy cream and from the cheese, but it's not too heavy, which I absolutely love.
Do you need any service?
Could you grab me the red spoon?
Yes.
What is your favorite jar sauce?
Ooh. We
Go
can
ahead.
get our
Yeah.
favorite. We like, there's two. We like Victoria. And we like Rayo's. I'm from New York, so like Rayo's is like a New York staple, the restaurant in the city. We definitely look for something that has no sugar added. That's kind of our MO. So those are our two top brands, but if we can't find either of those at the store, we just look for something that doesn't have sugar added to it.
Yeah, those are kind of our favorites. You can find them at Costco, so we love to buy the large, the large versions. But they have the no sugar added, so that's a great one. And they make a variety. The tomato basil is probably the one we use the most. Yeah, thank you, babe. So we're just turning off the heat. We finished this on more of like a medium-low temperature. And now I'm just plating. So you see I've got the beautiful chicken that Julien did such a good job of slicing. We've got that added spinach. I love that it adds that pop of color as well as, you know, a little extra veggie. The sun-dried tomatoes and our lovely sauce. Again, that's not too heavy. Now, again, this is a serving for two. It comes from the section of the cookbook where it's all 2 servings. I'd say these are too hefty.
Yeah, the chicken was really good.
The chicken was huge. But it looks really good. I didn't do a great job plating, but yeah, I would bring one up. I'm hoping you could see as we cooked. Julien's going to show you now. You see a little bit of everything. We've got the pasta, chicken, spinach, sun-dried tomatoes, and then that delicious sauce that came together. Now, if you wanted, you could top this with some more grated cheese. I love cheese. You could top this with a little bit of freshly cracked pepper. You got it.
That's my key.
Or some beautiful parsley. Like I said, we just literally pulled everything out of our pantry and our fridge for this meal. So we always have sun-dried tomatoes in our fridge. We had the spinach. I think we were anticipating making smoothies this week. That didn't happen. And then we always
some green.
That's true. And then we always have pasta in the pantry and chicken in the freezer. So this is just stuff we have on hand. But if I was making this, you know, for a dinner party or something, I would buy maybe some fresh parsley to sprinkle on top and make that presentation beautiful. But yeah, it's really easy to pull together, you know, an easy, simple one skillet meal. And again, you can customize this. So this is for 2. So in the spirit of meal prep, honestly, we double this recipe a lot and make 2 chicken breasts, double the amount of pasta, and then all of the ingredients. And you can make dinner for tonight and then lunch for tomorrow. Or if you just have a family of 4, you can double the recipe. So really, really easy.
And this one comes together really quick. We were cooking and talking, so I think it took a little bit longer.
Yeah, this is like a 30-minute meal.
At the most, 30 minutes, like 20. If you're really efficient, you can do it in like 20.
Okay. I got a bite of everything. Should we? It is so good. It's creamy,
It's really good.
but it's not, what I love about this recipe is it's not dense and creamy. I feel like a lot of times when you get creamy recipes, they're like in a very heavy sauce, but this was not too heavy. So it's, you get still that texture. You did a great, Julien, perfectly al dente pasta. I'm so impressed. It's a skill, you guys. Boiling pasta is a skill.
You guys are making my mouth water, but we're going to open up the floor for any questions, comments. Please feel welcome to post in the chat box and I'll read them aloud.
Charlie, you want some pasta? Come here.
I think Peg, who's watching, may have cooked along with us.
Ooh, Peg, did you cook along? Can you make the
Peg says, I just tried mine and it's good.
Yeah, can you make the screen big? Come here. Does everyone want to meet Charlie really quick? He's very loud, but he's very friendly. This is Charlie, our first baby. He's 7 years old, and he sees the neighbors outside, so he's very excited. Okay. Okay. Yes, you're so cute. Do we have? I'm gonna give them a treat, quiet them down. Come here, dogs.
I think I'm gonna have a bite of Kenzie's on. Another bite.
Do we have any questions coming in or anything that we didn't chat about here that you would like to chat about?
So Stephanie is curious what pantry staples you recommend having on hand when groceries are hard to predict.
That is a really great question. We love having a fully stocked spice cabinet.
Yeah.
If you our spice cabinet is like kind of behind the camera, but it is full all the time with a bunch of different spices. We love experimenting with new spices all the time. I kind of pick some like fun ones up anytime I see them. Another good one that I feel like we always have is like stock or broth. So we have a bunch of chicken stock in the cabinet right now. It's just so versatile for any kind of recipes you can think of. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, like a really good vegetable stock is great too. A great kind of base for a chili. You can use it for a risotto, making a soup, adding flavor to anything.
Yeah, I'd say my like must-haves for a pantry or for the fridge is one, having protein, whether that's, meat like chicken and ground beef, I think are two things that we always have in the freezer. We don't always have fresh protein in the fridge, and that's totally fine. I think chicken's really resilient, and it can go from freezer to pan really easy. Yeah. Same with ground beef.
And for us, it's been actually really hard to find a lot of chicken right now in the Boston area. Maybe we're not going to the right store, or we're not getting there at the right time. But like, there's just limited cuts of meat available compared to normal. So
and don't be afraid to like swap. Like if you're used to cooking with chicken breasts and you can only find chicken thighs at the store, get the chicken thighs and just adapt the recipe. It's really, really simple to make swaps, and I think folks are intimidated a lot of times to swap like the chicken breast in this recipe. You could use a boneless, skinless chicken thigh, and it would be delicious. Like chicken thighs stay nice and succulent and very moist, so that would be great. The other thing that I would say we like to keep on hand is like starches, like rice and pasta. Because you can really pull together a full meal with just a little bit of that, whether the rice is the base or the pasta is the base. That's the other thing. And right now when we go to the grocery store, we're generally just getting fresh produce. We're just grabbing some spinach, we're grabbing some apples, like that kind of stuff, to just kind of elevate the meal, because you could do this without the spinach, and this would be all stuff that either came from a pantry or from the freezer. I think just being able to kind of supplement with that, whatever you can find is great. Like if you didn't have spinach, broccoli would be great in here. So just kind of buying what you see and then adapting the recipes. That's kind of my tip for right now. But yeah, we like to kind of keep stuff in the freezer. We go to Costco and we like stock up, and then we are set for a while. Did that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay, good.
And then we have two more questions. The first one is, what temperature should the chicken be when cooking?
it should be 165. So chicken should always be 165 when you're cooking it, no matter what the cut. I would say in a recipe like this, especially if you have a larger piece of chicken, you could take the chicken out just a little early because you're going to finish it, but then always check the temperature when you put it before you plate it. We have an easy read thermometer that I actually brought home from work one day, but they're really easy to find at the grocery store as well as just on like Amazon. So I always recommend having a cooking thermometer on hand. And then when you're cooking like cuts of beef or if you're grilling, then you can use that to check as well for doneness. So
I'm
the chicken, 165.
I'm colorblind, so that like an easy to read thermometer is like something for me.
Julian used
when cooking chicken.
When I first met Julian and we would cook chicken at home, he would like really mutilate the chicken before it came out of the pan because he'd keep cutting it to see if it was pink.
And I didn't have a
he couldn't tell if it was pink. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm checking. It's not. And we always would dry out the chicken because you really shouldn't cut into protein before you serve it because you're going to lose the juices. So you always want to let it rest and then slice like we did with that chicken. We took it out, let it rest for about 5 minutes, and then Julian sliced it. So
I've learned.
He's doing well.
And then which of your cookbooks is your favorite?
Oh boy, that's like picking a favorite child. I would say this one like holds a really special place in my heart because we did it together. Julian has helped me with every cookbook I've ever written. My first cookbook, he proofed for me. He taste tests every recipe. He also is like there when like I have a deadline and I have like 6 more recipes to write and I'm like losing my mind. He like always talks me down. So he is like always been there, but this one was especially special. But I do think my first cookbook, Paleo in 28, again, holds a special spot. It was the first one. It's actually the biggest one I've ever written. And it was I just remember being like, we had a launch party for it. I just remember being like, I can't believe I'm writing a cookbook. Like, I'll never have this experience again. So I think I really savored the development process. And folks still use that cookbook and tag me and stuff on social media all the time, which I love to see that it like still lives on because it's a 28-day meal plan. They're all paleo recipes. We probably go back to it like once a year and cook through the whole meal plan. Because it's just like a nice reset. And that's kind of how I learned to cook. Julian grew up in a family of foodies who were always experimenting. My mom was a great cook. She always had dinner on the table, but like we didn't center around food in the same way your family does. So when I went paleo and had to learn like how to cook all over again, it was just, that's kind of what set my passion for cooking. So I think there's something about that book that like brings that back out. So it's a tie. Paleo in 28, the new Newlywed, somewhere in there would be what I would say. Yeah.
Good answer.
I can't not pick the one that we did together. So yeah, that would be my choice. But they're all good. There's a recipe in every one that I love and we make frequently. So
You guys mentioned that you like going to restaurants and recreating some of the meals. So what are some of the restaurants and meals in particular?
I know mine right off the bat.
Go ahead.
So we lived in the South End for a while, in Boston, and one of my favorite places is Metropolis on Tremont Street. They have a pasta dish called simply the rigatoni. It's like a spicy, little bit creamy tomato sauce with sausage and rigatoni. That's like maybe my favorite thing to get at any restaurant. But we've tried to make it a couple times, and it actually inspired a recipe in the Newlywed Cookbook as well, just because as we were going through and kind of thinking about what are the recipes that we made growing up, or like what are the things that remind us of like childhood, and then like what are the things that remind us of the different phases of our lives. I was like, I'm definitely recreating the rigatoni from Metropolis for the book. So that was a good one. That's my favorite. And of course, chicken and rice, guys, as I mentioned to some of you who were on earlier.
Yeah, I think, we have the South End, is a Northeastern, so close, obviously, to the South End. That was like, especially in school where we would go for like big occasions, would be like to a restaurant in the South End for an anniversary or a birthday, or when we both got our first jobs right during co-op, we went and celebrated at we've celebrated at Beehive, we've celebrated at Boston Chops. Like, there's just so many great restaurants around there, so I think we still frequent that area of like Tremont, Columbus, Washington. Those are kind of like our even now. So we live outside of the city, very close, like 15 minutes to get into the city, but that's like where we still go for date night and stuff like that area. So anywhere in there. We love Metropolis. Is still one of our favorites. Julien still gets the rigatoni. I don't know if you've ever.
I've never had anything before.
Ever changed. Beehive, Boston Chops, Borough Bar is obviously amazing, which is now in the South End. I'm trying to think of Cinquecento. What else do we love over there? Oh, well, we had our first date at Parish Cafe. If anyone remembers Parish, it's no longer there, but that was our first date, and I had macaroni and cheese. I've probably said macaroni and cheese like 3 times. I love macaroni and cheese. So that was like probably our spot for a little while because it was our first date.
And I lived across the street.
And Julien lived across the street on Mass Ave, so it was very convenient. But anywhere over there, you can't really go wrong in that area. I think that's one of the things we loved most about Northeastern, right? Is it's like so easy to go to so many places in the city. So hopefully that helps.
Do you have any favorite seafood restaurants in Boston?
Ooh, I mean, Neptune is classic. What's the one that was in Portland that's now here? The oyster place. Eventide. I'm like, but in Fenway, that's a good one. I love getting like around oysters, and when our friends come in, we bring them there to get like lobster rolls and stuff. So that's a really good one. But there's some really good seafood dishes on like a lot of menus in the area. And Fenway actually isn't. Maybe we're just creatures of habit, because Fenway and the South End, I think, are where we go out the most to get dinner. But Fenway's got some amazing restaurants, and there's some great seafood places around there. Is it Union? What's the one right on the corner? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like right on the corner, like across from Tasty Burger, kind of?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it like Union? Citizen? Something?
Citizen's Oyster.
Is that what it's called? Whatever that one is. But actually, okay, here's a good one for the summertime. Is it B&G? B&G. Yeah. In the South End, this place called B&G. Is it B&G Oysters? Yeah. I love oysters, so that's like my go-to. But if you could go there, you can sit out on the patio and get like a glass of champagne, some oysters, and some French fries, and that's like my favorite meal. So that's a really fun place. They've got a great patio setup, and then when you go inside, it's like right in the kitchen almost. Like you're right on that bar area. Really cool. B&G. Yeah. Yeah, but there's so many good ones. I mean, Tiffany Faison opened up a new Italian restaurant in Fenway. That's amazing. All of her restaurants are great. There's a lot of good wine bars in Fenway too. So I could keep going on and on, but yeah, hopefully that helps.
And then we have one last question. Do your cookbooks have any recipes for desserts? And if so, which is your favorite?
Yes. So the new Newlywed Cookbook has a whole section on desserts for 2, which I loved like writing them because we got to eat them all and not feel guilty because they were only for 2 people. I'm trying to find that section. And actually, one of the desserts in here was also inspired by Metropolis. So this is the section desserts for 2. There's a lot of things in here. There's mug brownies for 2, peach cobbler for 2. But my favorite is the coffee creme brulee for 2. And that was also inspired by Metropolis. So we were inspired for 2 recipes. But that's absolutely delicious. I love that one. How about you?
There's a semi-fritto recipe that I really liked testing.
Yeah, it was the stracciatella.
Yeah. When we go to Italy, which is awesome, like my favorite gelato is stracciatella, which is like vanilla cream with chocolate shavings. It's like fancy chocolate chip ice cream. Yeah. So we have a stracciatella semi-fritto in here, which is like a quick ice cream style dessert that you don't need an ice cream maker to make.
Yeah, and then there's another one in here that is actually, I think it's made an appearance in every cookbook I've ever written, which is a chocolate chip skillet cookie for 2. So you make it in like a cast iron skillet, and it's delicious. You top it with vanilla ice cream. But in the back of the book, there's also the menus that I was talking about, and this is not dessert, but it's a really fun recipe. It's sprinkle loaded waffles. So there's a birthday brunch chapter. So if you're looking to, you know, spice up someone's birthday while you're stuck in, this chapter of the book has a ton of great inspiration of just ways to like make it a little more fun. And adding sprinkles to like pancakes or waffles in the morning is a fun way to do that. And then I also just have to hit on, because we didn't talk about this, but we love to entertain, whether it's literally just the two of us having like game night with friends right now or having people over. A cheese board is a must. So if you're looking for how to do a good cheese board, this is the Italian cheese board in the book, but there's a whole section on how to prepare a cheese board and like a grazing board. So you don't have to like be hosting to have fun with it. We've been doing a lot of virtual game nights and virtual birthday parties and movie nights, and we always kind of whip up something fun like a cheese board or dinner or whatever it is, but that's just a recommendation.
Julien and Kenzie, this has been so wonderful. Thank you for facilitating.
Of
Thank
course,
you so
thank you so
much.
much for having us, and thank you everybody for joining.
Thanks all.
Bye, have a great weekend.